Michael Bloomberg, among the dignitaries there this morning. This is a day, Errol, where we don't talk about politics, where people come together, which sometimes is very rare, especially during these days in politics. You know, we say never forget. For the FDNY, it's really difficult to never forget because that department continues to be impacted by what happened 21 years ago. They've reached a point where almost as many members have died since 9/11 than actually died on that day, 343. In terms of the sort of the national, the political angle to this, there always seems to be a struggle to get the money that they want for compensation and for their health care costs. And it doesn't, the two sides don't always
twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Right, quick, march.
Gordon M. Amith, Jr.
Edelmiro Abad.
Marie Rose Abad.
Andrew Anthony Abate.
Vincent Paul Abate.
Lawrence Christopher Abel.
Alana Abraham.
William F. Abrahamson.
Richard Anthony Aceto.
Heinrich Bernard Ackerman.
Paul Aquaviva.
Christian Adams.
Donald Leroy Adams.
Patrick Adams.
Shannon Lewis Adams.
Stephen George Adams.
Ignatius Udo Adanga.
Christy A. Adamo.
Terrence Edward Adderley Jr.,
Sophia B. Otto,
Lee Adler,
Daniel Thomas Aflito,
Emmanuel Akwazi Afwakwa,
Alok Agarwal,
Mukul Kumar Argarwala,
Joseph Agnello,
Davis Scott Agnes,
Joao Alberto de Fonseca Aguiar Jr.,
Brian G. Ahern,
Jeremiah Joseph Ahern,
Joanne Marie Aliadadis,
Sabir Ahmed,
Terrence Andre Klein,
Godwin O. Ajala,
Trudy Alagero,
Andrew Alameno,
Margaret Ann Alario,
Gary M. Albero, Peter Craig Alderman,
and my brother-in-law, Daniel Francis McGinley. Danny, you are in our hearts every day. Your 5 now adult children, Terrence, Maddie, Peter, Ann, and Pat, are thriving. Like you, and with Peggy's guidance, they are kind, caring, and very fun people, succeeding in their careers and in life. We celebrate you all today.
and my father, John Leslie Albert. I was 13 years old in September of 2001. We had a wonderful relationship to date, but I asked, how well does a 13-year-old boy really know his father? The reality is that I, along with countless other children who lost parents, missed out on countless memories, moments, conversations. So while the grief recedes a bit with time, the permanent absence of my father is just as palpable today as it ever was.
Jacqueline Delane Aldridge Frederick.
David D. Alger,
Ernest Alacacos.
Edward L. Allegretto,
Eric Allen.
Joseph Ryan Allen,
Richard Dennis Allen.
Richard L. Allen,
Christopher E. Allingham.
Anna S. W. Allison,
Janet Marie Alonzo.
Anthony Alvarado,
Antonio Javier Alvarez.
Victoria Alvarez Brito,
Telma E. Alvier.
Cesar Amaranto Alviar,
Tariq Amanula.
Angelo Amaranto,
James M. Amato.
Joseph Amatuccio,
Paul W. Ambrose.
Christopher Charles Amoroso,
Craig Scott Amundsen.
Kazuhiro Anai,
Calixto Anyaya Jr.
Joseph P. Anchondia,
Kermit Charles Anderson.
Yvette Constance Anderson,
John Jack Andraccio.
Michael Ork Andrews,
Jean Ann Andrucki.
Hugh Nya Ang,
Joseph Angelini Sr.
Joseph John Angelini Jr.,
David Lawrence Engel.
Mary Lynn Edwards Angel,
Laura Angeletta.
Doreen J. Anglisani,
Lorraine Antigua.
Seima David Aoyama,
And my cousin,
and my husband Cesar Amaranto Alviar. September 11, 2022 is the 21st year anniversary. We are here gathered to commemorate the loss of our loved ones, gone but will never be forgotten. Cesar Alviar will be remembered as a kind, loving, and humble person to family and friends. Your legacy will remain in our hearts forever. He is a guardian angel to me and to my children, Christopher, Janina, and Gemma, my grandchildren, Riley, James, Grayson, Mina, Maxwell, and my daughter-in-law, Faith, and son-in-laws, Eric and Mark. We miss and love you so much. And thank you all to those who organized involving this yearly memory service for us. God bless the victims and God bless America.
And to my cousin, John DiGiovanni, victim of the 93 World Trade Center bombing. John, I was 4 years old. I remember you clear as day. I love you and I miss you. And to my other cousin, Kurt Wolfgruber, he died in 2019 from cancer. He was the chairman for the Voices of 9/11. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have this opportunity to speak the way we do and remember our loved ones. Everyone in front of us is a new family. It took a tragedy to create this new family. And I want to remind everyone over there, our politicians and elected leaders surrounded by a border right now, it took a tragedy to unite our country. Back then, no one cared if you were a Republican, Democrat, age, gender, race, ethnicity. We were united. It took a tragedy to unite us. And I want to remind all of you there, it should not take another tragedy to unite our nation. Because if I have to stand at this podium again or another podium for another event because of lives lost, because of dereliction of duty, it's gonna hurt, just like it hurts me. I want to thank everyone for being here, and I'm going to continue doing this until the day that I die, and I'm joined with my family up there. God bless America. Thank you.
Peter Paul Apollo.
Faustino Apostol Jr.
Frank Thomas Aquilino.
Patrick Michael Araños.
David Gregory Arche.
Michael George Archinsky.
Louis Arena.
Barbara Jean R. Steggy.
Adam P. Arias.
Michael J. Armstrong.
Jack Charles Aran.
Joshua Todd Aaron.
Richard Avery Arano.
Myra Joy Aronson.
Japhet Jesse Arier.
Carl Francis Asaro.
Michael A. Asiak.
Michael Edward Asher.
Janice Marie Ashley.
Thomas J. Ashton.
Manuel O. Asidambe.
Greg A. Atlas.
Gerald Thomas Atwood.
James Audifred.
Louis F. Aversano Jr.
Ezra Aviles.
Sandy Ayala.
Arlene T. Babakitas.
Eustace R. Backus.
John J. Badakliaka.
Jane Ellen Baszler.
Robert J. Bearwalter.
Andrew J. Bailey.
Brett T. Bailey.
Garnet Ace Bailey.
Tatiana Bakalinskaya.
Michael S. Backus.
Sharon M. Balcom.
Michael Andrew Bain.
Catherine Bantis.
And my big brother, Joseph Michael Giacconi. 21 years, 21 seconds. The anger is still there. The pain is still there. The grief is not something you check off on a list and finish. It's the new normal. Joe, I held your first baby grandson in my arms. You should have been holding him. We love you and we miss you.
My fighter Jimmy Riches. Uncle Jimmy, I am so proud to be named after you. You are my hero. I I wish I could have met you because you sound like so much fun when we talk about you. I love sports just like you. My dad told me that you would love to watch me play basketball. You're always in my heart, and I know you are watching over me and all of your nieces and nephews. God bless America.
Firefighter Gerard Baptiste.
Walter Barron.
Assistant Chief Gerard A. Barbara.
Paul Vincent Barbaro.
James William Barbella.
Victor Daniel Barbosa.
Christine Jonna Barbuto.
Colleen Ann Barkow.
David Michael Barkway.
Matthew Barnes.
Melissa Rose Barnes.
Sheila Patricia Barnes.
Evan J. Barron.
Renee.
It's 9 o'clock. 1-800-GOT-JUNK for home or office junk removal. We make junk disappear.
B.
Ina B. Basina.
Alicia Christine Burton Basmajian.
Kenneth William Baznicki.
Stephen Joseph Bates.
Paul James Battaglia.
W. David Bauer.
Ivan Luis Carpio Bautista.
Marlon Capito Batista.
Mark Lawrence Bavis.
Jasper Baxter.
Lorraine G. Bay.
Michelle Beal.
Todd M. Beamer.
Paul Frederick Bettini.
Jane S. Beatty.
Alan Anthony Bevan.
Lawrence Ira Beck.
Manette Marie Beckles.
Firefighter Carl John Badigian.
Michael Ernest Beekman.
And my uncle, Firefighter Joseph Patrick Henry. Uncle Joey, although I never got to meet you, I've heard stories about your great sense of humor and how we would have had many laughs with you as our uncle. We know you are always watching over us. Thank you for being our guardian angel and hero.
And my brother from Local 3, James Marcel Cartier. Local 3 lost 17 members that day. God bless Local 3. God bless America. Lester Marino, Tommy Ashton, and a very good friend of mine's dad, Kenneth Watson. God bless America.
Maria A. Bear.
Max J. Belkey.
Yelena Belowski.
Nina Patrice Bell.
Debbie S. Bellows.
Stephen Elliott Belson.
Paul N.
Benedetti. Denise Lenore Benedetto.
Ryan Craig Bennett,
Eric L. Bennett,
Oliver Bennett,
Margaret L. Benson,
Dominic J.
Berardi, James Patrick Berger,
Stephen Howard Berger,
John P. Bergen, Alvin Bergson, Daniel David Bergstein, Graham Andrew Berkeley, Michael J. Berkeley,
Donna
M. Bernards, David W. Bernard,
Willem H.
Bernstein, David M. Beret,
David Shelby Barry,
Joseph John Berry,
Willem Reed Besky,
Yanuth Betru,
Timothy D. Betterly,
Carolyn Mayer Bug,
Edward Frank B.A.,
Paul Michael Bayer,
Anil Talaram Barbani,
Bella J. Bacan,
Shmi D.
Beagleson, Peter Alexander Bielfeld,
Willem G. Bigart,
Ryan Eugene Bilcher,
Mark Bickham,
Carl Vincent Beanie,
and my papa, Michael Sean Curtin.
and my father, NYPD ESU Truck 2 Sergeant and USMC Sergeant Major Michael Sean Curtin. We miss you every day, and God bless America.
Gary Eugene Bird,
Joshua David Birnbaum,
George John Bishop,
Chris Romeo Bushundat,
Jeffrey Donald Bittner,
Albert Balewa Blackman Jr.,
Christopher Joseph Blackwell,
Carrie Rosetta Blackburn,
Susan Lee Blair,
Harry Blanding Jr.,
Janice Lee Blaney,
Craig Michael Blass,
Rita Blau,
Richard Middleton Blood Jr.,
Michael Andrew Bacardi,
John Paul Bacci,
Michael L. Bocino,
Susan M. Bacchino,
Diora Francis Bodley,
Bruce Douglas Bohm,
Mary Catherine Murphy Baffa,
Nicholas Andrew Bogdan,
Darren Christopher Bohan,
Lawrence Francis Boiseau,
Vincent M. Boland Jr.,
Tori Hamzavi Balorchi,
Alan Bondarenko,
Andre Bonner Jr.,
Colin Arthur Bonnet,
Frank J. Bonomo,
Yvonne Lucia Bonomo,
Sean Booker Sr.,
Kelly Ann Booms,
Canfield D. Boone,
Mary Jane Booth,
Sherry Ann Bordeaux,
Christine Bordanabe,
Jerry J. Borg,
Martin Michael Borchevsky,
Richard Edward Bosco,
and my uncle, Captain Brian C. Hickey, Rescue Company 4. Uncle Brian, when you were taken away from us, it left a void that's impossible to fill. But you did leave us with memories that we'll cherish forever and values that we'll uphold and pass down for generations. You're still here because all that you stood for and believed in now lives on through us. And we hope that you're looking down with pride. We love you, we miss you, and we thank you. And we thank all the first responders, the true heroes who sacrificed their lives on that day and on days beyond. Thank you.
Ray and Reese, if Grandpa were here today, He'd tell you to be kind, be strong, and hold the door for others. He'd also tell you to remember to enjoy your Reese's peanut butter cups with your friends. And most of all, he'd remind you to remind Grandpa his sauce was better.
Klaus Bolt,
Carol Marie Bouchard,
J. Howard Bolton,
Francisco Eligio Bordier,
Thomas Harold Baldwin Jr.,
Donna M. Bowen,
Kimberly S. Bowers,
Veronique Nicole Bowers,
Larry Bowen,
Sean Edward Bowman Jr.,
Kevin L. Bowser,
Gary R. Box,
Gennady Boyarsky,
Pamela Boyce,
Helen P. Boyle,
Michael Boyle,
Alfred J. Braca,
Sandra Kennedy Brace,
Kevin U. Brecken,
Sandy Webb Bradshaw,
David Brian Brady,
Alexander Berginski,
and my nephew, Rocco Nino Gargano, Tower 1, Canto Fitzgerald. Nino, one word I'd like to say. You will be never forget, like 9/11. That's a terrible day, but unfortunately you will be one of the best calendar never I ever forget in my entire life. And Nino, one thing I'm sure, I was there from day one looking for you from the first hour I received a phone call. And unfortunately I become cancer patient. I'm sure I'm survived 12 year cancer stage 4. It thanks to you looking over me. And my prayer would be for all the people who lost their life, including the NYPD, the fire department, and all the citizens. God bless America, and thank you to all of you to be in the prayer today. Nino, don't forget to look over your mom. She's by herself, and she never forget 1 minute of her life. You always there in the house, and wherever she goes and whatever, be able to take her. God bless you again. God bless America. Nichols W. Brandemarty,
Daniel Raymond Brandhorst,
David Reed Gamboa, Bransford,
Michelle Renee Braden,
Patrice Brott,
Lydia Estelle Bravo,
Ronald Michael Breitweiser,
Edward A. Brennan III,
Frank H. Brennan,
Michael E. Brennan,
Peter Brennan,
Thomas Moore Brennan,
Daniel J. Brettil,
Gary Lee Bright,
Jonathan Eric Bright,
Mark A. Brisman,
Paul Gary Bristow,
Marion R. Britton, and my grandmother, Arlene Ava Freed. To my grandma, the memories you've shared with my family make me feel so special to carry on your name as my middle name. I've always been told by my mom and aunts that to have known you would have been to absolutely love and adore you. So today, my brother, cousin, and I, all named after you, will continue to carry on your memory as well the rest of our family. You'll never be forgotten, Grandma Arlene.
Mark Francis Broderick,
Herman Charles Broghammer,
Keith A. Broomfield,
Bernard C. Brown II,
Janice J. Lois Brown,
Lloyd Stanford Brown,
Patrick John Brown,
Bettina B. Crowd Radburn,
Mark Bruce,
Richard George Brewhurt,
Greg J. Buck,
Dennis Buckley,
Sandra Patricia Campbell.
Sean Thomas Canavan.
John A. Candela.
Vincent A. Canlaji.
Stephen J. Cangelosi.
Lisa Bella Caneva.
Brian Canizaro.
Michael R. Canty.
Louis Anthony Caparici.
Jonathan Neef Capello.
James Christopher Cappers.
Richard Michael Caproni.
Jose Manuel Cardona.
Dennis M. Carey Sr.
Edward Carlino.
Michael Scott Carlo.
And my grandfather, Assistant Chief of Department Gerard A. Barbara, Incident Commander of the South Tower Rescue Mission. I'm sad that I never got to meet you. People who knew you you tell me that you were a smart, caring, and brave role model who always wanted to solve the problem and keep the team safe. You were always prepared and forever a gentleman as a husband, father, family, or friend. I can't change that you're not here to watch us grow up, but I will live my life with our values and wear our name proudly. God bless America.
And my uncle Richard T. Muldowney Jr. and my cousin Kenneth Thomas Watson.
David G. Carlone.
Rosemary C. Carson.
Mark Stephen Carney.
Joyce N. Carpeneto.
Jeremy Kaz Carrington.
Michael T. Carroll.
Peter J. Carroll.
James Joseph Carson Jr.
Christopher Mikael Karstingen.
Angeline C. Carter.
James Marcel Cartier.
Sharon Ann Carver.
Vivian Casaldic.
Jan Francis Cazaza.
Paul Regan Casio.
Nellie Ann Heffernan Casey.
William Joseph Cashman.
Thomas Anthony Casoria.
William Otto Casper.
Alejandro Castaño.
Arcelia Castillo.
Leonard M. Castellano.
Jose Ramon Castro.
William E. Caswell.
Richard G. Catarelli.
Christopher Seyon Caton.
Robert John Caulfield.
Mary Teresa Caulfield.
Judson Cavalier.
Michael Joseph Cowley.
Jason David Kane.
Juan Armando Ceballos.
Marsha G. Cecil Carter.
Jason Michael Cepalo.
Thomas Joseph Selleck.
Anna Mercedes Centeno.
Joni Sesta.
John J. Chada.
Jeffrey Mark Chernoff.
Sharna Shala Sani.
And my real-life superhero, my cousin David Prudencio Lemagne. You are the perfect example of sacrifice and servanthood. Thank you for everything. Your legacy lives within each one of us. We love you dearly, we miss you incredibly, and we'll remember you forever. I hope you're proud.
And our beloved son, J. Cyril Malaboyok de Chavez. Magandang umaga sa lahat. Good morning to all. JC, we love you and miss you every day. Your memory lives on even after all these years. Thank you for being our guardian angel. We miss you
your smile, and our thoughts. May you rest in peace, all those who are departed one on this tragedy date, 9/11. And may all rest in peace in the kingdom of God. Thank you.
William A. Chalkoff,
Eli Shalhoub,
Charles Lawrence Chan,
Mandy Chang,
Rosa Maria Chapa,
Mark Lawrence Charette,
David M. Charlebois,
Gregorio Manuel Chavez,
Pedro Francisco Checo,
Douglas Macmillan Cherry,
Stephen Patrick Cherry,
Vernon Paul Cherry,
Nestor Julio Chevalier Jr.,
Swede Joseph Chevalier,
Alexander H. Chiang,
Dorothy J. Chicharo,
Luis Alfonso Chimbo,
Robert Chin,
Eddie Wingwei Ching,
Nicholas Paul Chiofalo,
John G. Chipura,
Peter A. Churchirillo,
Catherine Ellen Chiros,
Kyung Hee Casey Cho,
Abul K. Chowdhury,
Mohammed Salahuddin Chowdhury,
Kirsten Leo Christoph,
Pamela Chu,
Stephen Paul Chuknik,
Y. Ching Chung,
Christopher Giaffardini,
Alex F. Sicone,
Francis Ann Salente,
Elaine Sillo,
Edna Cintron,
Nestor Andre Cintron III,
Robert D. Siri Sr.,
Juan Pablo Cisneros,
Benjamin Keith Clark,
Eugene Clark,
and my cousin Thomas Anthony Casorio. May his soul and all the souls of those who were lost that day, as well as those who have died as a result of illness, always be remembered as true heroes. God bless them all.
And my aunt, Gabriella Silvina Weissman, who I never had the opportunity to meet, but who I have learned about through my mother and grandparents. We love you, Auntie Gabby, and we will never forget you. She was a kind and loving woman who was a beacon of joy for everyone in her life. I would also like to thank the thousands of servicemen and women who have sacrificed and continue to sacrifice for our nation in the war on terror, as well as the first responders who answered the call that day and saved countless lives. God bless America, and let us never forget.
Gregory Allen Clark, Manny Leroy Clark, Sarah M. Clark, Thomas R. Clark, Christopher Robert Clark, Donna Marie Clark, Michael J. Clark, Saria Rachel Emma Clark, Kevin Francis Cleary, James D. Clear, Jeffrey W. Cloud, Susan Marie Klein, Stephen Coakley, Jeffrey Allen Cole, Patricia A. Cody, Daniel Michael Coffey, Jason Matthew Coffey, Florence G. Cohen, Kevin S. Cohen, Anthony Joseph Coladonato, Mark Joseph Coleo, Stephen J. Coleo, Christopher Michael Colasanti, Kevin Nathaniel Colbert, Michelle P. Colbert, Keith E. Coleman, Scott Thomas Coleman, Terrell Coleman, Liam Joseph Colhoun, Robert D. Colin, Robert J. Cole, Jean Marie Collin, John Michael Collins, Michael L. Collins, Thomas Joseph Collins, Joseph Kent Collison, Jeffrey Dwayne Coleman, Patricia Malia Kolodner, Linda M. Colon, Saul E. Cologne, and a special remembrance for my friend, my heroic friend, Kathy Mazza from the Port Authority Police Department, for my EMS colleagues, and for our family members, brother, brother-in-law, father, and friend, Tom, Robert Toomey, and Emmerich Harvey. And my mother, Roberta Bernstein Heber, you are always in my heart.
Ronald Edward Palmer,
Jaime Concepcion,
Albert Conde,
Denise Conley,
Susan P. Colon,
Margaret Mary Connor,
Cynthia Marie Lease Conley,
John E. Connolly Jr.,
James Lee Connor,
Jonathan M. Connors,
Kevin Patrick Connors,
Kevin F. Conroy,
Brenda E. Conway,
Dennis Michael Cook,
Helen D. Cook,
Jeffrey W. Coons,
John A. Cooper,
Julian T. Cooper,
Joseph John Copo Jr.,
Gerard J. Coppola,
Joseph Albert Corbett,
John J. Corcoran III,
Alejandro Cordero,
Robert Joseph Cordes,
Ruben D. Pereira,
Danny A. Correa Gutierrez,
Georgine Rose Corrigan,
James J. Corrigan, retired,
Carlos Cortez Rodriguez,
Kevin Michael Cosgrove,
Dolores Marie Costa,
Digna Alexandra Costanza,
Charles Gregory Costello Jr.,
Michael S. Costello,
Asia S. Cottom,
Conrad Kofi Katoy Sr.,
Martin John Coughlin,
John G. Coughlin,
Timothy J. Coughlin,
James E. Cove,
and to my brother, firefighter, Sergeant Reserve, I miss you, I love you, and you'll never be forgotten.
and my cousin, Jude Elias Safi. I wish we had more time together. Life is so unexpected, and it is because of you that I try to see or speak to those I love as often as possible. I am reminded of you every time I see your nephews' faces. Your niece and nephews would have loved spending time with their cool and fun uncle. Your family and friends love you and miss you every day. You will never be forgotten.
Andre Colin Cox,
Frederick John Cox,
James Raymond Coyle,
Michelle Coyle Alou,
Christopher Seaton Kramer,
Eric A. Cranford,
Denise Elizabeth Krant,
James Leslie Cranford Jr.,
Robert James Crawford,
Tara Kathleen Crema,
Joanne Mary Cregan,
Lucia Chavasi,
John A. Creasy,
Daniel Howe Chrisman,
Dennis A. Cross,
Kevin R. Crody,
Thomas G. Crody,
John R. Crow,
Wells Remy Crowther,
Robert L. Crushank,
John Robert Cruz,
Grace Allegra Q,
Kenneth John Kubas,
Francisco Cruz Cabero,
Thelma Cuccinello,
Richard Joseph Codina,
Neil James Cudmore,
Thomas Patrick Cullen III,
Joan Cullinan,
Joyce Rose Cummings,
Brian Thomas Cummins,
Michael Joseph Cunningham,
Robert Coratola,
Lawrence Damien Cura,
Paul Dario Curioli,
Patrick Joseph Coravan,
Beverly L. Curry,
Andrew Peter Charles Curry Green,
Michael Sean Curtin.
Patricia Cushing.
And amongst the most courageous on 9/11 were my brother, Lieutenant Peter Lewis Freund, Engine 55, and my cousin, Timothy Patrick McSweeney, Ladder 3. Peter and Tim, we love you. Our love for you and our respect for your bravery grows deeper every day. Thank you for taking care of our Uncle Ed Merrill, retired NYPD, who just joined you in heaven last week. And on one last note, Pete, this morning at 7:25 this morning, your son Peter texted me, and his text simply read, "I miss him every day." God bless.
And my sister, Jane Ellen Baszler, who is loved and missed.
Gavin Cushman,
Caleb Aaron Dack,
Carlos S. DaCosta,
Jason M. Dahl,
Brian Paul Dale,
John Delara,
Vincent Gerard Damadeo,
Thomas A. Damaskinos,
Jack L. D'Ambrosi Jr.,
Janine Damiani Jones,
Manuel Joao Damota,
Patrick W. Danahy,
Mary D'Antonio,
Vincent G. Dance,
Dwight Donald Darcy,
Elizabeth Ann Darling,
Annette Andrea Dataran,
Edward A. Diatri,
Michael D. Oria,
Lawrence Davidson,
Michael Allen Davidson,
Scott Matthew Davidson,
Titus Davidson,
Nierka Davila,
Ada M. Davis,
Clinton Davis Sr.,
Wayne Terriel Davis,
Anthony Richard Dawson,
Calvin Dawson,
Edward James Day,
William Thomas Dean,
Robert J. DeAngelis Jr.,
Thomas Patrick DeAngelis,
Dorothy Alma Diada Ahu,
Ana Gloria Pocasangre de Barade,
Tara E. DeBeck,
James D. Debonair,
Anna M. DeBen,
James V. de Blasi Jr.,
J. Cyril Malabuyak de Chavez,
my brother, Richard Avery Arano, 21 years. It's like yesterday. We miss you, we love you, we will never, ever forget.
and to my deceased husband, Peter Mutos, and I know he'd want me to say a big thank you to all those in the armed forces who keep us safe.
Paul DeCola,
Gerald DiCanto,
Simon Mirage Dedbukaj,
Jason Christopher DeFazio,
David A. DeFeo,
Jennifer De Jesus,
Monique Effie DeJesus,
Nareda De Jesus,
Emmy De La Pena,
Donald Arthur Della Pena,
Azunea Maria De La Torre,
Vito Joseph DeLeo,
Daniela Ann Deli,
Andrea Della Bella,
Joseph A. Jean C. De Palma,
Jose Nicholas Da Pena,
Robert John Denary,
Michael D. Rienzo,
firefighter David Paul DeRubio,
Jamal Lagas DeSantis,
Christian Luis Desmond,
Edward D. Simone III,
firefighter Andrew J. Desperito,
Michael June Desposito,
Cindy Ann Dew,
Melanie Louise DeVere,
Jerry Tavito,
Robert P. Devitt Jr.,
and my grandfather, firefighter Alan Terrasarich. Nana and Mom teach me about you, and my brothers and I would love the chance to meet you. You will never be forgotten.
And my aunt, Brooke Alexandra Jackman. Aunt Brooke, although I never met you, I feel a deep connection to you. I share your love of reading, helping others, and being the younger sister. As I've gotten older, people have told me that I resemble you in both appearance and mannerisms. And that is truly the best compliment I could ever get. The amount of time you have been gone is almost as much as your short years lived. My heart breaks that I will never get to meet you, but you have and will always be my role.
Hernandez.
Elisa Giselle Ferreira.
Anne Marie Solarin Ferreira.
Robert John Ferris.
David Francis Ferrugio.
Louis V. Forsini Jr.
Michael David Ferrugio.
Bradley James Fetchett.
Jennifer Louise Bialco.
Kristen Nicole Fidel.
Amelia V. Fields.
Samuel Fields.
Alexander Milan Filipov.
Michael Bradley Finnegan.
Timothy J. Flaherty.
Michael C. Fiore.
Stephen J. Fiorelli.
Paul M. Fiore.
John B. Fiorito.
John R. Fisher.
Andrew Fisher.
Bennett Lawson Fisher.
Gerald P. Fisher.
John Roger Fisher.
Thomas J. Fisher.
Lucy A. Fishman.
Brian D. Fitzgerald.
Thomas James Fitzpatrick.
Richard P. Fitzsimmons.
Salvatore Fiume Fredo.
Darlene E. Flagg.
Wilson F. Flagg.
Christina Donovan Flannery.
Eileen Fletcher.
And my mother, Lillian Caceres. My mother touched the hearts of every person she met, and I'm so proud to have had such an amazing woman to call my mom. We love you and we miss you.
And my cousin, Leah Elizabeth Oliver. We miss seeing that beautiful smile and hearing your infectious laugh. Your time with us was too short, but we know your spirit lives on.
You were just too good for this world. We miss you and we love you.
Andre G. Fletcher.
Carl M. Flickinger.
Matthew M. Flacco.
John Joseph Florio.
Joseph Walkden Flounders.
Carol Ann Flyzik.
David Fodor.
Michael N. Fodor.
Stephen Mark Fogel.
Thomas J. Foley.
James C. Folger.
David J. Fontana.
Chin Min Fu.
Delrose E. Forbes Cheatham.
Godwin Ford.
Donald A. Foreman.
Christopher U. Forsey.
Claudia Alicia Foster.
Noel John Foster.
Sandra N. Foster.
Anna Fosteris.
Robert Joseph Foti.
Jeffrey Fox.
Virginia Elizabeth Fox.
Pauline Francis.
Virgin Lucy Francis.
Gary J. Frank.
Morton H. Frank.
Peter Christopher Frank.
Colleen L. Fraser.
Richard K. Fraser.
Kevin J. Frawley.
Clyde Fraser Jr.
Lillian Inez Frederick.
Andrew Fredericks.
Tamitha Freeman.
Brett O. Freeman.
Peter L. Freund.
Arlene Eva Fried.
Alan W. Friedlander.
And my father, Isidro D. Ottenwalder. I didn't have the privilege to meet you, but you will always be in my heart. I love you.
And my uncle, James J. Strain Jr. Uncle Jimmy, we love you and we miss you.
Andrew Keith Friedman.
Paul J. Friedman.
Greg J. Froner.
Lisa N. Frost.
Peter Christian Fry.
Clement A. Fumando.
Stephen Elliott Furman.
Paul James Fermato,
Carlton Douglas B. Fife,
Frederick Neil Gabler,
Richard Peter Gabriel,
Richard S. Gabriel,
James Andrew Gadale,
Paul Lee Gaff,
Irvin Vincent Galliard,
Deanna Lynn Galante,
Grace Catherine Galante,
Edward Anthony Gallagher,
Daniel James Gallagher,
John Patrick Gallagher,
Lords J. Galetti,
Kono E. Gallo,
Vincent Gallucci,
Thomas E. Galvin,
Giovanna Galetta Gambale,
Thomas Gambino Jr.,
Gian F. Gamboa,
Ronald L. Gamboa,
Peter James Gansey Jr.,
Michael Gann,
Charles William Garbarini,
Andrew Sonny Garcia,
Cesar R. Garcia,
David Garcia,
Jorge Luis Maron Garcia,
Juan Garcia,
Marlon del Carmen Garcia,
Christopher Samuel Gardner,
Douglas Benjamin Gardner,
Harvey Joseph Gardner III,
and my brother T.J. Hargrave, who we really, really miss. Our world has been diminished because the senseless taking of his life.
and my brother Sushil S. Solanki. I know you're rejoicing with Dad upstairs. Mom, Satish, and I, and along with the rest of the family, we miss you and love you every day. Thank you.
Jeffrey Brian Gardner,
Thomas A. Gardner,
William Arthur Gardner,
Frank Garfey,
Rocco Nino Gargano,
James M. Gartenberg,
Matthew David Garvey,
Bruce Gary,
Boyd Allen Gatton,
Donald Richard Gavigan Jr.,
Peter Allen Gay,
Terrence D. Gazani,
Gary Paul Guidel,
Paul Hamilton Geyer,
Julie M. Geis,
Peter Gerard Gelinas,
Stephen Paul Geller,
Howard G. Gelling Jr.,
Peter Victor Jenko Jr.,
Stephen Gregory Genovese,
Elaine Gentle,
Linda M. George,
Edward F. Garrity,
Suzanne Garrity,
Ralph Gerhart,
Robert Gerlich,
Dennis P. Germain,
Marina Romanovna Gertzberg,
Susan M. Getzendonner,
Lawrence D. Getzfred.
James G. Geyer.
Cortez Gee.
Joseph M. Giacone.
Vincent Francis Giamona.
Deborah Lynn Gibbon.
James Andrew Giberson.
Brenda C. Gibson.
Craig Neil Gibson.
Ronnie E. Geis.
Andrew Clive Gilbert.
And my uncle, James John Woods. You are loved and missed. Tell Grandma I love her.
And my brother, Brendan Mark Lang, and my beautiful aunt, Roseanne P. Lang. I'd like to share a quick text with you. This is from my brother's, one of his best friends, whose son is a first-year U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. Ryan just finished a 9/11 stare. Dad, just finished a 9/11 stare run for the 343 firefighters and the first responders that selflessly climbed 110 flights in hopes of saving another's life. Not only for the 343, but for the 2,997 others that lost their life that day. The whole weekend, may we remember and pray for those innocent lives lost and reflect on what it means to be American. The whole time I was going through this, I was thinking about Brendan. Never forget. God bless you, Ryan Walsh, and God bless America.
Timothy Paul Gilbert.
Paul Stewart Gilby.
Paul John Gill.
Mark Y. Giles.
Evan Hunter Gillette.
Ronald Lawrence Gilligan.
Rodney C. Gillis.
Laura Gilly.
John F. Ginley.
Donna Marie Giordano.
Jeffrey John Giordano.
John Giordano.
Stephen A. Giorgetti.
Martin Giovanazzo.
Kum Kum Girolamo.
Salvatore Guito.
Cynthia Gugliano.
Man Jean Balash.
Diane Gladstone.
Keith Alexander Glasgow.
Thomas Irwin Glasser.
Edmund Glaser.
Harry Glenn.
Barry H. Glick.
Jeremy Logan Glick.
Stephen Glick.
John T. Nazo.
William Robert Godshock.
Michael Gorgliormella.
Brian F. Goldberg.
Jeffrey G. Goldflam.
Michelle Goldstein.
Monica Goldstein.
Stephen Ian Goldstein.
Ronald F. Golinsky.
Andrew H. Golkin.
Dennis James Gomez.
Enrique Antonio Gomez.
Jose Benvenido Gomez.
Manuel Gomez Jr.
And my husband, Bernard Petronica. We miss you every single day. More so this year as we welcomed our first grandson on June 14th, Logan Bernard.
And my loving cousin, Howard G. Gelling Jr., who was 28 when he died that day. Both of his siblings are doing well, and both of them had identical twins, strangely, like the Twin Towers. And Lisa's here with me, Howard, in spirit. She wanted you to know that. And we miss you so much. Love you.
Wilder Alfred Gomez.
Janine Nicole Gonzalez.
Maurice Gonzalez.
Rosa J. Gonzalez.
Leanne Catherine Godchild.
Calvin Joseph Gooding.
Peter Morgan Godrich.
Harry Gooding.
Kiran Kumar Reddy Gup.
Catherine C. Gorayed.
Lisa Fenn Gordison.
Corrine Gordon.
Sebastian Gorky.
Kieran Joseph Gorman.
Thomas Edward Gorman.
Michael Edward Gould.
O. Christian Olsholm White Goldie.
Douglas Allen Goa.
Yuji Goya.
John Richard Grabowski.
Christopher Michael Grady.
Edwin J. Graff III.
David Martin Grafferman.
Gilbert Franco Granados.
Lauren Gattusi Grancolas.
Elvira Granito.
Wisdom Arthur Grant.
Christopher S. Gray.
Ian J. Gray.
James Michael Gray.
Timothy George Gracioso.
John M. Gratioso.
Wade B. Green.
Derek Arthur Green.
Elaine Mira Greenberg.
Wanda Anita Green.
Gail R. Green.
Donald Freeman Green.
And the love of my life, firefighter Carl Francis Zassaro. After 21 years today, it still hurts. We hold into memories, still hurts. So many tears, smiles, shaking our hands, still hurts. But those who die, saving lives, will be always remembered in our hearts, forever.
And my uncle, Abu K. Chaudhary. Although I never met my uncle, it feels like I've known him all my life. My mother always tells me how wonderful he was. He loved his family unconditionally, and he was kind and generous to everyone around him. I'm proud to call him my uncle, and he'll always be in our hearts.
Eileen Marcia Greenstein.
Elizabeth Martin Gregg.
Denise Marie Gregory.
Donald H. Gregory.
Florence Moran Gregory.
Pedro Grahan.
John Michael Griffin.
Tawana Sherry Griffin.
Joan Donna Griffith.
Warren Grifka.
Ramon B. Grijalvo.
Joseph F. Grillo.
David Joseph Grimner.
Francis Edward Grogan.
Linda Gronlund.
Kenneth George Gruzalis.
Joseph Grzelik.
Matthew James Grismalski.
Robert Joseph Gashar,
Liming Gu,
Richard J. Guadagno,
Jose A. Guadalupe,
Cindy Yan Zhu Guan,
Jeffrey E. Guja,
Joseph P. Gullickson,
Babita Gerjamadi Guman,
Douglas Brian Gurian,
Janet Ruth Gustafson,
Philip T. Guza,
Barbara Guzardo,
Peter Mark Gullivari,
Gary Robert Haig,
Andrea Lynn Haberman,
Barbara Mary Habib,
Philip Hensler,
Nizam A. Hafiz,
Karen Elizabeth Haggerty,
Stephen Michael Haggis,
Mary Lou Haig,
David Halderman,
and my uncle, firefighter Gerard Terrence Nevins. We love you and we miss you every day.
and my big brother, Robert Cromwell Miller Jr., to Bobby. It's been a while, but I cherish how we grew up together and how you shared your wisdom, humility, and kindness. We'll always love you. And to the families of those 13 brave service members killed in Kabul a year ago, we know how much you're hurting. Please know we share your sorrow.
Miley Raquel Hale,
Diane Hale McKenzie,
Richard B. Hall,
Stanley R. Hall,
Voswald George Hall,
Robert J. Halligan,
Vincent Gerard Halloran,
Carolyn B. Howman,
James Douglas Halvorsen,
Muhammad Salman Habdani,
Felicia Hamilton,
Robert W. Hamilton,
Carl Max Hammond Jr.,
Frederick K. Hahn,
Christopher James Hanley,
Sean S. Hanley,
Valerie Joan Hanna,
Thomas Paul Hannafin,
Kevin James Hannaford Sr.,
Michael Lawrence Hannon,
Dana Ray Hannon,
Christine Lee Hansen,
Peter Burton Hansen,
Sue Kim Hansen,
Vasilios G. Haramis,
James A. Heron,
Gerald Francis Hardacre,
Jeffrey Pike Hardy,
T.J. Hargrave,
Daniel Edward Harlan,
Francis Harros,
Harvey L. Harrell,
Stephen G. Harrell,
Melissa Harrington Hughes,
Aisha Ann Harris,
Stuart D. Harris,
John Patrick Hart,
Eric Hartono,
John Clinton Hart,
Emmerich Harvey,
and my cousin, Brooke David Rosenbaum. It's been 25 years since you have passed and since you were ripped from our hearts. The other quiet, sarcastic cousin in the corner reading his book. I'd never have thought that the world could have gotten worse, and yet here we are today. The world truly does get worse without our angels. You are with your whole family now, and we miss you terribly.
And my cousin, Gregory Milanowitz. It's been 21 years since you've been gone. The family thinks about you constantly. We miss and love you so much. I share your story as a teacher to my students each year and how kind you were. We must continue to teach about this day, about the heroism, about the lives lost, and the patriotism this country had after, so this day will never be forgotten.
Peter Paul Hashim.
Thomas Theodore Haskell Jr.
Timothy Sean Haskell.
Joseph John Hassan III.
Leonard W. Hatton Jr.
Terrence S. Hatton.
Michael Helmut Haub.
Timothy Aaron Haviland.
Donald G. Havlish Jr.
Anthony Maurice Hawkins.
Nobuhiro Hayatsu.
James Edward Hayden.
Robert J. Hayes.
Philip T. Hayes.
W. Ward Haynes.
Scott Jordan Hazelcorn.
Michael K. Healy.
Roberta B. Heber.
Charles Francis Xavier Heron.
John F. Heffernan.
Michelle M. Heidenberger.
Sheila M. S. Hine.
H. Joseph Heller Jr.
Joanne L. Heltebridal.
Ronald John Hemingway.
Mark F. Hemscott.
Ronnie Lee Henderson.
Brian Hennessy.
Edward R. Hennessy Jr.
Michelle Marie Enrique.
Joseph Patrick Henry.
William L. Henry Jr.
Katharina Henry Robinson.
John Christopher Henwood.
Robert Allen Hepburn.
Mary Herencia.
Lindsay C. Harkness III.
Harvey Robert Hermer.
Norberto Hernandez.
Raul Hernandez.
And my uncle, FDNY Lieutenant Jeffrey P. Walls, Ladder 9, Great Jones Street. My uncle was a hero I was unable to meet. Like a hero in a comic book, I had heard stories of your heroism and strength. Mom tells me about you every chance she gets. Give a hug to Grandma and Grandpa. We love and miss you.
And our son, Paul Robert Eckner, it's 21 years and it seems like yesterday. You are forever in our broken hearts. And I want to thank you all for watching and listening to this beautiful memorial. Let us never forget this day.
Gary Harold. Jeffrey Allen Hirsch. Thomas J. Hetzel. Leon Bernard Hayward McSundance. Brian Christopher Hickey. And Amincio Dario Hidalgo Cedeno. Timothy Brian Higgins. Robert D. W. Higley II. Todd Russell Hill. Clara Victorine Hines. Neil O. Hines. Mark Hindi. Katsuyuki Hirai. Heather Malia Ho. Tara Yvette Hobbs. Thomas Anderson Hobbs. James J. Hobben. Robert Wayne Hobson III. Dawan Hodges. Ronald G. Horner. Patrick A. Hoey. John A. Hoffer. Marsha Hoffman. Stephen Gerard Hoffman. Frederick Joseph Hoffman. Michelle L. Hoffman. Judith Florence Hoffmiller. Wallace Cole Hogan Jr. Thomas Warren Hallwick Jr. Jonathan R. Homan. Cora Hidlago Holland. John Holland. Joseph F. Holland. Jimmy I. Holly. Elizabeth Holmes. Thomas P. Houlihan. Herbert Wilson Homer. Leroy W. Homer Jr. Bradley V. Horan. James P. Hopper. And my brother, Salvatore F. Pepe. We miss you every day. You're loved by all, forever in our hearts. And my father, firefighter Gerard Patrick Schrang.
we miss you. It doesn't get any easier. Please continue to watch over Mom, me, Brian, and my boys, your grandsons. We love you, and I'll always be your olive oil.
Montgomery McCullough Horde.
Michael Joseph Horn.
Matthew Douglas Horning.
Robert L. Horojo Jr.
Michael Robert Horrocks.
Aaron Horwitz.
Charles J. Houston.
Uhuru G. Houston.
Angela M. House.
George Gerard Howard.
Brady K. Howell.
Michael C. Howell.
Stephen Leon Howell.
Jennifer L. Howley.
Milagros Romata.
Marion R. Hrychek.
Stephen Hutchko Jr.
Chris Robert Hughes.
Paul Rexford Hughes.
Robert T. Hughes Jr.
Thomas F. Hughes Jr.
Timothy Robert Hughes.
Susan Huey.
Lamar Demetrius Hulse.
John Nicholas Humber Jr.
William Christopher Hunt.
Kathleen Ann Hunt Casey.
Joseph Gerard Hunter.
Peggy M. Hurt.
Robert R. Husta.
Stephen N. Highland Jr.
Robert J. Himmel.
Thomas Edward Hines.
Walter G. Hines.
Joseph Anthony Iannelli.
Zutu Ibis.
Jonathan Lee Ielfi.
Michael Patrick Eichen.
Daniel Il Kaneev.
Frederick J. Ill Jr.
And my cousin Gary Michael Barrow. Gary, the family and I miss you every day. Your jokes and laughter could light up any room. You would be proud to know your son Michael graduated from Seton Hall this year and just got his first job at Morristown Medical Center. Tell Dad we said hi and hope you both bring the Giants some luck today. We love you, God bless you all, and God bless America.
And my father, Edward Calderon. These past 21 years haven't always been the easiest for us, and there has definitely been some great moments that he's missed. But it's the little things that remind us of him every day, whether it's watching over us in our dreams or looking at the clock and it's saying 9/11. We know you're always with us. We know you got our back. Just know we love you, Daddy.
One thing I would say, the past 20 years has not been easy.
Abraham Nathaniel Ilowitz.
Anthony P. Infante Jr.
Louis S. Inglaterra.
Christopher Noble Ingracia.
Paul Inella.
Stephanie Veronica Earby.
Douglas Jason Eargang.
Kristen Irvine Ryan.
Todd Antione Isaac.
I want to explain very quickly before the 10:30 a.m.
Tazio Ishikawa.
Walid Joseph
10:30 a.m.
Aram is Katarian Jr.
Memorial
John
ringing a bell.
Kazushige Ito.
Alexandra Valencia Ivansov.
Lacey Bernard Ivory.
Virginia May Yablonsky.
Brian C. Jack.
Brooke Alexandra Jackman.
Aaron Jeremy Jacobs.
Ariel Lewis Jacobs.
Jason Kyle Jacobs.
Michael G. Jacobs.
Stephen A. Jacobson.
Stephen D. Jacoby.
Ricknoth Jaggernoth.
Jake Dennis Yehoda.
Yudvir S. Jane.
Maria Yakubiak.
Robert Adrian Jalbert.
Ernest James.
Griselda E. James.
Mark Stephen Jardim.
Amy Nicole Jarrett.
Muhammadu Jawara.
Francois Jean-Pierre,
Maxima Jean-Pierre,
Paul Edward Jeffers,
John Charles Jenkins,
and my cousin, John M. Poacher. John and I were only 5 months apart, and I am so lucky that our families chose to do so many things together. Fortunately, there are memories that time does not erase. Our teenage years are ones that still make me laugh. My friends giving John a perm. John coming to visit with his friends to my college. I don't think it was to see me. I really think it was to see the sorority sisters, but they drove all night to get there. And I am blessed to have these memories, so many more. I am humbled, honored, and privileged to be here today to show respect for all of the families who were affected by this terrible tragedy. 9/11 is a part of John, but it does not define his person. We will never forget.
and our niece, Dominique Lisa Pandolfo, daughter of my sister, Barbara Pandolfo. Dominique was an up-and-coming superstar, her heart filled with love and a real zest for life. We will never forget you. Dominique, we miss you.
Joseph Jenkins Jr.,
Alan Keith Jensen,
Prem Nath Gerard,
Farah Judy,
Huedar Gian,
Eliza Jimenez Jr.,
Luis Jimenez Jr.,
Charles Gregory John,
Nicholas John,
Dennis M. Johnson,
Lashana Johnson,
Scott Michael Johnson,
William R. Johnston,
Allison Horseman Jones,
Arthur Joseph Jones III,
Brian Leander Jones,
Charles Edward Jones,
Christopher D. Jones,
Donald T. Jones II,
Donald W. Jones,
Judith Lauter Jones,
Linda Jones.
day, and you're our Hercules with the shalom.
And my grandfather, Raymond Matthew Downey Sr., who I never had the honor of meeting, but through pictures and stories, his legacy will never die. I know you're watching over me and the rest of the family as you guide each of us every day. Connor and JJ, I know Poppy's so proud of you guys for coming to this in uniform for the first time, and Dad for being promoted into Poppy's position as Chief of Rescue Operations. Until the day comes where we can finally meet, your spirit will continue to live on. Always remember and never forget.
Howard Lee Kane.
Jennifer Lynn Kane.
Firefighter Vincent D. Kane, Engine 22.
Jun Ku Kang.
Sheldon Robert Cantor.
Deborah H. Kaplan.
Robin Lynn Kaplan.
Alvin Peter Kappelman, Jr.
Charles H. Karcheski.
William A. Carnes.
Douglas Jean Kopoloff.
Charles L. Casper.
Andrew K. Cates.
John A. Casamides.
Sergeant Robert Michael Colfers, Port Authority Police.
Don Jerome Kauth, Jr.
Hideo Kawauchi.
Edward T. Keene.
Richard M. Kane.
Lisa Yvonne Carney Griffin.
Carol Ann Kiesler.
Barbara A. Keating.
Firefighter Paul Hanlon Keating, Ladder 5.
Leo Russell Keene III.
Brenda Kegler.
Chandler Raymond Keller.
Joseph John Keller.
Peter R. Kellerman.
Joseph P. Kellett.
Frederick H. Kelly III.
James Joseph Kelly.
Joseph A. Kelly.
Maurice P. Kelly.
Richard John Kelly, Jr.
Thomas Michael Kelly.
Thomas Richard Kelly.
Firefighter Thomas W. Kelly, Ladder 105.
Timothy Colin Kelly.
William Hill Robert J. Langone.
Thomas Michael Langone.
Michelle Bernadette Lanza.
Ruth Sheila Lappin.
Ingeborg A.D. Larrabee.
Robin Blair Larkey.
Judith Camilla LaRocque.
Christopher Randall Larrabee.
Hamidou S. Larry.
Scott Larson.
John Adam Larson.
Natalie Janice Lasden.
Gary Edward Lasco.
Nicholas
Joseph Gerard Levy.
Neil J. Levy.
Robert G. LeBlanc.
Leon Labor.
Kenneth Charles Lede.
Alan J. Lederman.
Elena F. Ledesma.
Alexis LaDuca.
Daniel John Lee.
David S. Lee.
Dong Chul Lee.
Gary H. Lee.
Hyun June Lee.
Juanita Lee.
Catherine Blair Lee.
Linda C. Lee.
Lorraine Mary Green Lee.
Mi Young Woo Lee.
Richard Y. C. Lee.
Stuart Soon Jin Lee.
Yang Der Lee.
Stephen Paul Lefkowitz.
Adriana Legro.
Edward Joseph Lehman.
Eric Lerfeld.
David R. Leastman.
David Prudencio Lamagne.
Joseph Anthony Lenahan.
John Joseph Lennon Jr.
John Robinson Lenoir.
Jorge Luis Leon Sr.
Matthew G. Leonard.
Michael Lepore.
Charles A. L'Esperance.
Jeff Levine.
John Dennis Levi.
Alicia Karen Levin.
And my brother, Chris Allingham. Chris is now gone 21 years, and I believe he'd be extremely annoyed at the state of our country today. On his behalf, I am going to remind our elected officials why they have their jobs. The preamble to our Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I'll be voting in November. If you're not upholding the Constitution, you're going to be out of a job. That's what Chris would want. God bless America.
And my brother, Donald Walter Robertson, Jr. This never gets easy, Donnie. Words cannot express how much you are missed and loved. Your legacy lives on through your beautiful 4 children, Michael, Matthew, Madison, and Kevin, your family, your friends, and of course through Team Shamrock and the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. We choose to remember how you lived, rather than how you left us. We vow to never, ever forget. We love you, Donnie. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Neil David Levin.
Robert Levine.
Robert Michael Levine.
Shai Levenhar.
Daniel M. Lewin.
Adam J. Lewis.
Jennifer Lewis.
Kenneth E. Lewis.
Margaret Susan Lewis.
Yi Wei Liang.
Orasri Liang Thanasarn.
Daniel F. Libretti.
Ralph Michael Lichardi.
Edward Lichtstein.
Samantha L. Lightborn Allen.
Stephen Barry Lilienthal.
Carlos R. Lilo.
Craig Damian Lalore.
Arnold Arboleta Lim.
Daria Yin.
Wei Rong Lin.
Nikki L. Lindo.
Thomas V. Linehan Jr.
Robert Thomas Linane.
Alan Patrick Linton Jr.
Diane Teresa Lapari.
Kenneth P. Lira Arvalo.
Francisco Alberto Liriano.
Lorraine Lisi.
Paul Listen.
Vincent M. Lito.
Minghao Liu.
Nancy Liz.
Harold Liscano.
Martin Lizul.
George Andrew Janes.
Elizabeth C. Logler.
Catherine Lisa Liguidice.
Jerome Robert Lohez.
Michael William Lomax.
And my uncle Noral H. Mia and my aunt Shakila Yasmin. We miss you very much and we love you dearly.
And my uncle John Gerard Farrell. Uncle John, I never got to meet you, but you live on in the stories that people tell about you, the ones who love you. I've heard a lot about your legendary humor, and I look forward to seeing you someday and to hearing the stories I've been told I'm not old enough to hear yet. We love you, John.
Stephen V. Long.
Laura Maria Longing.
Salvatore P. Lopez.
Daniel Lopez.
George Lopez.
Luis Manuel Lopez.
Maclovio Lopez Jr.
Manuel L. Lopez.
Joseph Lastrangio.
Chet Deck Louis.
Stuart Side Lewis.
Joseph Lavero.
Sarah Elizabeth Lowe.
Jenny Sue Quing Lo Wong.
Michael W. Lowe.
Gary W. Logier.
John P. Lazowski.
Charles Peter Lucania.
Edward Hobbs Luckett II.
Mark Gavin Ludvitskin.
Lee Charles Ludwig.
Sean Thomas Lugano.
Daniel Lugo.
Marie Lucas.
William Lum Jr.
Michael P. London.
Christopher E. Lunder.
Anthony Luparello.
Gary Frederick Lutnick.
Linda Ann Lucy Cohn.
Alexander Ligon.
Cece Lyles.
Farrell Peter Lynch.
James Francis Lynch.
James T. Lynch Jr.
Louise A. Lynch.
Michael Cameron Lynch.
Michael Francis Lynch.
Michael Francis Lynch.
Richard D. Lynch Jr.
And my uncle, firefighter Christopher Michael Mazzillo. Even though I never got the chance to meet you, it's like I know you and your personality better than anyone else. I know that I will forever have a piece of you in me. You are always there giving me that extra push, big or small. I especially think of you when I'm making memories, like ziplining upside down or jumping off a Black Rock in Hawaii, because I know if you were here, you would be right here by my side doing it with me. Because of you, I don't hold back on certain things in life. I live for you, hoping that I can do the things that you never got to do. I know that you are always with me, especially when I'm golfing or surfing. Thank you for always watching over the family. Sometimes I get worried about Dad working the same job as you, but then I remember that you're a guardian angel and you're keeping him safe. We all miss you and love you so much and wonder what life would be like if you never left. We love you endlessly, Uncle Chris.
And my uncle, Michael Lawrence Hannon. You are constantly celebrated by your family and friends, especially Aunt Andrea, Rachel, and Allie. We miss you, we love you, and let's go Islanders.
Robert Henry Lynch, Jr.
Sean P. Lynch.
Sean Patrick Lynch.
Terrence M. Lynch.
Michael J. Lyons.
Monica Ann Lyons.
Neiman Lyons IV.
Patrick John Lyons.
Robert Francis Mace.
Marianne McFarland.
Jan Matsievsky.
Susan A. Mackey.
William Mako.
Catherine Fairfax McCrae.
Richard Blaine Madden.
Simon Madsen.
Noel C. Myers.
Jenny Ann McFayo.
Joseph Maffeo.
J. Robert Magazine.
Brian McGee.
Charles W. McGee.
Joseph V. McGiddy.
Ronald Magnuson.
Daniel L. Mayer.
Thomas A. Mahan.
William J. Mahoney.
Joseph Daniel Mayo.
Linda C. Mayer Grayling.
Takashi Makimoto.
Abdu Ali Malahi.
Deborah I. Maldonado.
Myrna T. Maldonado Augusto.
Alfred Russell Maller.
Gregory James Malone.
Edward Francis Maloney III.
Joseph E. Maloney.
Jean Edward Malloy.
Christian H. Maltby.
Francesco Miguel Mancino.
And my brother, John G. Chapora. Engine 219, died with ladder 105. John, we miss you every day. 21 years has gone by so fast. It's a lifetime ago for your nephew, Matthew. He turned 20 last month. He never knew you, but he has some of your personality traits, especially your sense of humor and work ethic. I think of you every day in the way you helped and interacted with people on a one-on-one basis. You had a very special way of dealing with people. Everyone you helped in your lifetime was important to you, and you made them feel special. Now I endeavor to do that myself, and I hope one day to be as successful as you. Your foundation helps people one person at a time, just like you would have done had you not been taken from us. We don't change people's lives, we just change their life for one day. Please watch over us and keep us safe. We love you, women. We miss you. God bless you, John.
And my brother, Peter Anton Klein. I love you. I miss your laugh and your wacky sense of humor. You live on in the hearts of your family, friends, and all who knew you, and in the next generation of your nephew and nieces, Anton, Lizzie, Carmen, and Margaret.
Joseph Mangano.
Sarah Elizabeth Manley.
Deborah M. Manetta.
Marion Victoria Manning.
Terrence John Manning.
James Maunis.
Alfred Gills Padre Joseph Marchand.
Joseph Ross Marchbanks Jr.
Laura A. Marchese.
Hilda Marson.
Peter Edward Mardikian.
Edward Joseph Mardovich.
Charles Joseph Margiata.
Louis Neil Mariani.
Kenneth Joseph Marino.
Lester V. Marino.
Vita Marino.
Kevin D. Marlowe.
Jose Juan Marrero.
John Daniel Marshall.
Shelley A. Marshall.
James Martello.
Michael A. Marty.
Karen Ann Martin.
Peter C. Martin.
Teresa M. Martin.
William J. Martin Jr.
Brian E. Martineau.
Betsy Martinez.
Edward J. Martinez.
Jose Angel Martinez Jr.
Robert Gabriel Martinez.
Waleska Martinez.
Lizzie
different way of demonstrating their culture and their civic life.
We saw there the High Kirk, as you put it, St Giles Cathedral, and the Queen certainly made regular visits there herself, did she not, as Sovereign of the Order of the Thistle. It is where her coffin will go tomorrow, which will go from the Palace of Holyrood House with her 4 children following on behind, solemnly walking behind her up the Royal Mile.
That's what we will see tomorrow. There will also be a small group of Royal Household staff, I believe, also.
Okay, this is the news with James Barcus. I do want to apologize for bringing the 9/11 remembrance to a smaller screen while we dominate with the Queen's cortege in the right-hand side of the screen, but that journey is just about over for the Queen to go from Balmoral to Edinburgh. We're not sure where it's heading right now, but I've muted the audio of Sky News and muted the audio of the reading of the names just to bring you this update. We will resume the reading of the names just as quickly as I get some facts here from royal.uk. We are watching both breaking stories at the present moment. Again, the funeral service for Queen Elizabeth II has left Balmoral Castle, and according to royal.uk, which is the official website of the royal family, is accompanied by Princess Royal and Sir Tim Lawrence. The cortege will head to the Palace of Holyrood House. The wreath of the coffin features dahlias, sweet peas, and phlox, white heather and pine fir from the Balmoral estate. According to royal.uk, this is the official website of the royal family. King, give me just a moment because there is more on this. After 70 years of service to her country, gun salutes were displayed on all of the vessels of the Royal Navy. The tenor bell is the largest of the 10 bells and is traditionally tolled upon the death of a member of the royal family. That tenor bell is tolled once every minute for the next hour. BBC News carried a service both in sign language and standard video at St. Paul's Cathedral. It was the first public rendition of God Save the King at that memorial service yesterday as well. Westminster Abbey chimed once every minute for an hour on Friday, the 9th of September. She died Thursday afternoon, the 8th, Eastern Time, which was in the afternoon or evening in the United Kingdom. It was about midday Eastern Time at that time. And we are continuing to watch the ceremony remembering September 11th, 2001. But the Queen's coffin is arriving in Edinburgh, and there are crowds lining the streets on both sides.
And
we are covering both ceremonies
Scott Martin McGovern,
as we speak.
William J.
We resume
McGovern,
the split screen with the memorial being on the big screen and slightly smaller screen, the Queen of the United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth II,
Thomas M. McHale, Keith
on her funeral
David
journey.
McAfee.
Her service will be September 19th, 2022. It is a bank holiday in the United Kingdom as ordered by King Charles
J. McHugh.
He signed that order today. He signed it yesterday, just after
Michael
ascending
Edward
to
McHugh, Jr.
head of state.
Robert G. McElvain. Donald James McIntyre. Stephanie Marie McKenna. Molly L. McKenzie. Barry J. McKeon. Evelyn C. McKinney. Darrell Laren McKinney. George Patrick McLaughlin, Jr.
And to my brother Alan Upton, we miss you. 21 years, and boy, it feels real still.
And my brother, Andrew Ira Rosenblum. Andy, in the last 21 years, your two sons, Jordan and Kyle, have grown into fine young men, and they've already started families of their own. You have two grandsons now, Maddie and your namesake, Andrew Ira Rosenblum. You would have been so proud of them, as well as all your nieces, nephews, cousins, and the entire family. You're missed at every celebration. We love you, we miss you, we think of you every day.
Robert C. McLaughlin, Jr.
Gavin McMahon.
Robert D. McMahon.
Edmund M. McNally.
Daniel Walker McNeil.
Walter Arthur McNeil.
Christine Sheila McNulty.
Sean Peter McNulty.
Robert William McPadden.
Terrence A. McShane.
Timothy Patrick McSweeney.
Martin E. McWilliams.
Rocco A. Medaglia.
Abigail Medina.
Anna Iris Medina.
Damian Meehan.
William J. Meehan, Jr.
Alok Kumar Mifta.
Raymond Meisenheimer.
Manuel Emilio Mejia.
Adescar Melanaco.
Antonio Melendez.
Mary P. Melendez.
Christopher D. Mello.
Yelenia Melanichico.
Stuart Todd Meltzner.
Diarella Giovanna Mena.
Dora Marie Menchaca.
Charles R. Mendez.
Lizette Mendoza.
Siobhan Alicia Mendez.
Wolfgang Peter Menzel.
Steve John Mercado.
Wilfredo Mercado.
Wesley Mercer.
Ralph Joseph Mercurio.
Alan Harvey Merdinger.
George L. Marino.
Yamal Josephina Marino.
George Mercoris.
And my beautiful mother, Barbara P. Walsh. Mom, 20 years, you went to work the North Tower on the 96th floor, Marsha McLennan. Your whole company was killed instantly. 21 years without you, in our hearts, we are still so broken. You are so missed, Mom. We have pushed through for you to relive the traditions that you taught us. You'd be very proud of all of us. Daddy's 82 years old, going on 83, and still missing you terribly. Your grandchildren, you would be so proud of them, Mom. They're unbelievable. Wishing and loving you is so easy that we know that you're in our hearts forever. You've helped us get through this pain, and we know that you're always with us. We love you, Mom, and continue to watch over us.
And my brother, firefighter Michael Francis Lynch. The definition of a hero is one who shows great courage. I'm amazed at the courage of all the grandparents, parents, widows, siblings, children, with the grief that they have to deal with the past 21 years. Grief is the price we pay for true love.
Deborah Merrick.
Raymond Joseph Metz III.
Jill Ann Metzler.
David Robert Meyer.
Nurul H. Marlan.
William Edward Michiuli.
Martin Paul Michelstein.
Patricia E. Mickley.
Ronald D. Malam.
Peter Teague Milano.
Gregory Malichevitz.
Lukash Tomasz Malewski.
Sharon Christian Milan.
Corey Peter Miller.
Greg J. Miller.
Douglas C. Miller.
Henry Alfred Miller, Jr.
Joel Miller.
Michael Matthew Miller.
Nicole Carol Miller.
Philip D. Miller.
Robert Allen Miller.
Robert Cromwell Miller, Jr.
Benny Millman.
Charles M. Mills, Jr.
Ronald Keith Milstein.
Robert J. Marana.
William George Minardi.
Louis Joseph Manero.
Thomas Minjone.
Wilbert Morale.
Dominic N. Merkovich.
Rashaj Ajan Mapuri.
Joseph D. Mistruli.
Susan J. Miskovich.
Paul Thomas Mitchell.
Richard P. Muccio.
Jeffrey Peter Ledenik.
Frank V. Mokia, Jr.
Louis Joseph Modaferri.
And my sister Abigail Callis Medina, which I don't lose the hope of meeting her again one time in this life again.
And my sister Marissa DiNardo. So many things we've missed, the family gatherings, which were never the same after you were taken from us. Our world is a different place because you're not here. I see you every day in my thoughts, and I see you in my children's eyes. I know you're still with us. We miss you so much. I hope you're with Mom and that you found each other again. Love never dies. My big sis, I love you.
Boyi Mohammed.
Dennis Mojica,
Manuel D. Mojica Jr.,
Kleber Rolando Molina,
Manuel de Jesus Molina,
Cara Molinero,
Justin John Molisani Jr.,
Brian Patrick Monaghan,
Franklin Monahan,
John Gerard Monahan,
Kristen Lee Montanaro,
Craig Montano,
Michael G. Montesi,
Carlos Alberto Montoya,
Antonio de Jesus Montoya Valdez,
Cheryl Ann Moniak,
Thomas Carlo Moody,
Sharon Moore,
Krishna V. Morthy,
Laura Lee DeFazio Morabito,
Abner Morales,
Carlos Manuel Morales,
Paula E. Morales,
Sonia Mercedes Morales Popolo,
Gerard P. Moran Jr.,
John Christopher Moran,
John Michael Moran,
Kathleen Moran,
Lindsay Stapleton Morehouse,
George William Morell,
Stephen P. Morello,
Vincent S. Morello,
Yvette Nicole Moreno,
Dorothy Morgan,
Richard J. Morgan,
Nancy Morgenstern,
Sane Mori,
Blanca Robertina Morocho Morocho,
Lionel Geronimo Morocho Morocho,
Dennis Gerard Maroney,
and my cousin, Michael A. Marty. Michael, we love and miss you every day. Your memory is a blessing, along with all the angels watching over us today.
and my sister Maria Teresa Conception Santillan, or we called her Marites. Marites, I wish Mom and Dad were here with me, but they're with you in heaven. Please look after them. Please look after us, me, Victor, Talia, Jennifer, and our kids, Rocco, Xavier, Marites, Grayson, and Rylan. I know it's a sign from you when my son Rylan was born on September 10th, 2018, and also my daughter Marites, who you're named after, was born on September 12th, 2012. Also wanted to say that I miss you, and I miss when you used to tell me you got problems. And also, I just want to say that I miss you. I miss Mom and Dad very much. And my condolences to all to the 9/11 families, and it was an honor to read the names. And God bless America.
Lynn Irene Morris,
Odessa B. Morris,
Seth Allen Morris,
Steve Morris,
Christopher Martell Morrison,
Ferdinand B. Marone,
William David Moscow,
Brian A. Moss,
Marco Matroni,
Cynthia Motus Wilson,
Yuri A. Muchinsky,
Jude Joseph Musa,
Peter Mutos,
Damian O'Neill Mowat,
Teddington H. Moy,
Christopher Michael Mazzillo,
Stephen Vincent Muldery,
Richard T. Muldowney Jr.,
Michael D. Mullen,
Dennis Michael Mulligan,
Peter James Mulligan,
Michael Joseph Mullen,
James Donald Munhall,
Nancy Muniz,
Francisco Hilario Munoz,
Carlos Mario Munoz,
Teresa Munson,
Robert Michael Marach,
Caesar Augusto Murillo,
Mark A. Morello,
Brian Joseph Murphy,
Charles Anthony Murphy,
Christopher W. Murphy,
Edward Charles Murphy,
James F. Murphy IV,
James Thomas Murphy,
Kevin James Murphy.
Okay, we do apologize for dumping out of
the
audio
cobbled street of this Royal Mile, which will turn into the Cannon Gate shortly, will bring the Queen to the Abbey Strand Gate.
Okay, sorry we've got out of the audio for September 11th, but Queen Elizabeth II's coffin has arrived in Edinburgh. I want to reiterate what's been happening the last few days. Queen Elizabeth II died Thursday afternoon, UK time. Friday was the first full day of mourning in the United Kingdom and indeed the world for Britain's most popular and most experienced, longest served monarch in history. Camera angles are getting such at a premium, they've had to use a crane, a cherry picker crane, to get a camera for one of the networks up far enough to see down the street. And this other shot is elsewhere in Edinburgh. This is by Sky News, which is a unit of NBC Universal Comcast. And I always put the television network before the cable company, to say the least. I don't acknowledge the cable company first, but there you see the cortege as it's heading down the street in Edinburgh. Of course, Queen Elizabeth's husband was known as Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. It is 6:20 in the evening in Edinburgh, Scotland. The cortege is making its long and winding way down the street due to the fact there are throngs of people throughout. And the motorcycle is leading it. The hearse is at the very front. And some relatives that traveled with Queen Elizabeth's coffin in the vehicles behind. The royal standard is not present on the car, but there is a crest at the very top of the car as the funeral party heads further down. A rose was just thrown into the road in Edinburgh, Scotland. And as you can see now, the coffin is making its way to Holyrood House. And there's the gates of the palace at Holyrood House as it now enters the castle grounds. We're going to take sound full with Sky News. Birds chirping at Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh, Scotland. The bands and guards stand by.
Good one! Move! Select! Return! Up!
The bearer party for their Colonel-in-Chief from the Royal Regiment of Scotland prepare to lift their precious burden and carry Her late Majesty into the palace.
Of course, as you can see, the big screen has Sky News, the small screen has the World Trade Center. This is breaking news coverage right now on the news with James Barcus. We will be back.
After more than 70 years as Queen of Scots, Elizabeth II is taken into the palace and will be placed in the throne room, peacefully at rest overnight, before the ceremonies begin tomorrow, and she's taken to the High Kirk of St. Giles, where a service of thanksgiving for her life of service to Scotland will take place in the presence of His Majesty the King. The Queen is home.
Good work! No! Out! Good work! Shoulder! Up! Good morning. We'll form 3 rights. Form 3 rights. Good morning. Low. Up. The guard of order will advance. Right. Turn.
The Guard of Honour with the King's colour taking leave of this sad sight here at Holyrood. So different from when the Queen arrived, and many of these soldiers gave their own salute to the arrival of their Queen. But today they've shown their ultimate respect on the instructions of the new King to the late Queen as they now leave out towards Arthur's Seat and the glorious views that this great palace has of the hills that sit right within the heart of this city. As Scotland has brought home the late Queen from the Highlands here to the heart of Edinburgh, and tomorrow these soldiers will return. They will take their part in escorting the late Queen to the cathedral on the Royal Mile. And following the procession will be His Majesty the King and other members of the royal family. The constables of Holyrood taking their leave also from this scene. And with the courtyard once again empty and the sentry marching out his pace, this sad journey is at an end, and the Queen is at rest in Holyrood.
Well, the High Constables of Holyrood, the last to leave out of the South Gate. With me here, Louise Tate, former Press Secretary to Her Majesty the Queen, and our Royal Correspondent, Rhiannon Mills. And Louise, you watch on. This was your office, of course, was it not? The coffin taken now to the throne room for, the household staff to pay their respects.
Yes, and for them to have that moment and for Her Majesty to spend a little bit more time in a place that she very much enjoyed being. It's incredibly moving. I think the palace looks wonderful, and I think she'd be delighted to see it, as she saw it just in the end of June this year.
And the applause, Rhiannon, as she was brought down through the Abbey Strand.
And this was the first time, really, that crowds in this number were able to pay their respects. And the contrast to where she left, 6 hours ago, could not have felt greater. The quiet seclusion of Balmoral, where her family were able to gather to mourn their mama, their grandma, in silence. And they are a family, however, who are very aware that they want to share this moment with the public. And that's what they were able to do as Princess Anne and her husband, Sir Tim Lawrence, were in the car behind the hearse carrying the coffin. And they would have witnessed the crowds as they came out throughout the Highlands, in Dundee, farmers with their tractors paying tribute. Scotland really coming out to pay their own respects to the Queen. And it was at this moment where we saw the coffin arriving at the Palace of Holyrood House, where we could see the Queen's children, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward, along with Prince Edward's wife, the Countess.
And of course, they're going back to video from earlier. With the arrival at Holyrood House. For the last 3 hours, we've carried both breaking news stories. The Queen having died on Thursday afternoon, UK time. Now, pallbearers bringing her precious cargo, they called her, into Hollywood House. And then for the house staff and others to pay tribute to her. But in the same time, we've had the reading of the names also at Ground Zero, which is now the 9/11 Memorial, on stage. I want to take a moment right now and discuss a little something as we transition from covering 2 breaking news stories to going off the air. Earlier during the 9/11 commemoration, there are signs, placards, and what have you saying never forget, and all these other things. And yes, there was cameras in other angles spotlighting those signs. That was good. But when a camera is trained on a speaker, and that speaker is trying to speak, those families have to be respectful of those on the stage reading the names in the commemoration. In years past, I've understood. But here we are 21 years on. And there is a certain respectful amount of decorum that is supposed to take place that some families do not hold regard to. We must hold regard to respect for those that are on the platform, at the podiums, reading the names respectfully, and not obstruct the view of the cameras, the pool cameras that are providing the coverage of that. There is respect, and then there is never forget, and then there is rudeness. And what I saw today with one sign in particular was rudeness. In nearly every camera shot aimed at the stage, that person held up that sign, making their person more important than all the others, when all of them should be equally as important because they all died the same day. 2,982 people. That includes those that have died since the search through the rubble and in the subsequent years. There have been an assortment of cancers, an assortment of problems that have taken place. And just as many firefighters that worked that rubble and police officers that worked that rubble have died as there are victims of the September 11th terrorist attacks. And what are we doing for them? A small glade. And a disservice by not covering the health ailments that have taken place. It is wrong, and our elected officials need to remember that. Come November, if you have no regard for the heroes that went into that building and trudged up 110 stories, a lot of them to their doom, you have no place in office. On the other hand, if you are sowing discord and disunion into this nation, you have no place in public office. If you're going to vote, vote your conscience. Don't vote because the person said something you liked Vote because you think they can do the job right. And if they don't do it right, then those that are doing their job right need to impeach and prosecute for dereliction of duty. Because if the commander-in-chief of the armed forces is subject to the laws, they should be subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice and prosecuted by JAG. Separate from any civil prosecution. Outside. Because if the person's going to be commander-in-chief, military has to prosecute, even if it is the commander-in-chief. Prince William has told the First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford, that he was honored to be made the new Prince of Wales. Charles III proclaimed king in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and in Windsor. We're going to have more on this as the days go on, but again, September 19th, 2022 is a bank holiday in the whole of the United Kingdom and the territories and realms, and it is also going to be the day of burial and final resting for Queen Elizabeth II, Her Majesty, who died Thursday afternoon at the age of 96. This is James Barcus at News with James Barcus Headquarters. We're going to end our special coverage today. I want to thank you for joining us